Yep, we have one coming. Moving right along. Well, you've seen this guy run now, right? That's two MPC era pull motors tied together effectively through one E-unit. And I just like the way it runs. So what I want to do is see if I can take this pile of junk and end up with something similar. One of the things I'm considering is just not even have an E-unit, just wire them all to go the same direction. Have a lead, and then have a trailing one with a hook. Have the lead with no hook like this one has. But it's not like I'm going to be going back and forth with it. It just might make it simpler to accomplish if I do that. But I think I'm going to have to take this stuff down into the saw shop in order to accomplish what I need. And then once I have it hacked up and put together, I'll bring it back up here and wire it. But two things I want to mention. One, as time goes on, I'm more and more interested and invested in 027 versus O. And the true modelers out there are like, why would you do that? Because O gauge is actually a scale model, right? 027 is kind of a blend between S gauge and O gauge track. It's not really proportional to much of anything for real. But most of my rolling stock cars is all 027 from Lionel, post-war Lionel, number one. And number two, I'm just used to seeing it. Number three, these are toy trains. It's just meant to be fun. If you're into modeling and trying to replicate reality, that's one thing. But if you just like running these things, watching them go around in circles like a dog watching a fire, well then who cares what the true scale is? It's not as much of a priority. It's more interesting to me to take a junk pile and make it run around in circles than it is to make it prototypical scale correct. Now, second part of that is, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been putting in some video of real trains and consists in front of some of these videos. And the point is, you're not going to put a true scale model of an operation like CSX and Do It Yard in a room like this, right? And having these toys be scale is not going to add any reality when what you got is a couple of ovals, you know, 4x8 sheets of plywood and stuff like that. So uh, rather than me try to go all real, because you're never going to get there. How about just have fun? You know, enjoy the history of Lionel and the old post-war locomotives, and kind of reliving my youth, because I had one of these. And just like with the Chainsaw Channel, I kind of like taking junk and making it work. So yeah, we got some O gauge around, but that's not as much a priority to me as just watching them go and run. And well, that one runs good. I think that's a success. So now I have to do the other half of it. Well, one of the things I just learned is different Pullmores have different armatures in the Alco line. This cheese ball right here has the same one that a standard one does. This cheese ball right here, where it's just driven on one axle, it's all different. The long one goes, that one right here goes to the cheese ball that drives one axle, and that will not fit it in anything else that I know of. This is more like the ones that I'm used to seeing, because it drives both axles. There's actually a third armature I found. See how that one sits flush? Even though this one looks the same, it does not. So it just binds up in there. So there's at least 3 different kinds of armatures for these things. This one here, the bottom is supported by the plate. That's one style. Another style is there's a bearing. And then of course there's a variety of different trucks based on. So yep, there's yet a third armature. When you set this down inside, you'll notice that it sits flush. Where this one does not. I don't even know if I can get it in there. And this one is designed to sit, instead of a bearing at the bottom like this one has. See how it's all open in there to the gear? This one right here is designed to sit in one like that with a support bearing. It's a much better design. It's right there at the bottom of the The plate, actually it came out of this one here. Yeah, it came out of this one, but still has the support bearing right there. Huh. Oh, look at that. That's for a switcher. Yeah, right here. That was the one that came out of. The long one came out of this one. So that's it. 3 separate styles of armature. Alright, the trick to these pull mores is you got to run stuff in serial. So basically the juice has got to go in one brush, through the armature, out the other brush, into one side of the coil, and then out the other side. Now this is a much older style one, like I showed you on the inside. The bearing is actually there for the bottom of the armature. It kind of floats in there. So I'm going to give it just a little bit of power, and let's see whether or not it goes that way. It does. So I've got it wired properly. So now I can set that in a chassis, put a body on it, and now I've got a puller. Pusher and a puller. And then what I'm going to do, I don't know if I'm going to do it tonight, is run a wire. That's ugly. I'm going to run a wire from the pickup to the pickup, and then basically make a strap and strap these things together so I have the same kind of arrangement I have there. But right now I just want to get to run, and then I'll put a couple bodies on it and run around in circles. Let's just see if I got it wired properly first. Alright, let me move the light and see if we can get a lap out of it. Alright, first test lap. Alright, I think the mock-up, that's what this is a mock-up, is ready to try some cars. Now remember, this is a early version of a Magna Traction on that one, and this is a later version of the Magna Traction, but both of them are 2-axle Magna Traction Pullmores. So this is where I kind of ended up, and again, this is a mock-up. I want to find another shell, Delaware and Hudson, and this is going to have to temporarily, you know, do, because I want the look and feel. Of course, Delaware Hudson, they got their color scheme from the Santa Fe, you know, and they actually bought their PAs from Santa Fe. But that's a little piece of history. And of course, I may have mentioned Delaware and Hudson never had an Alca FA. Lionel has a habit of doing things like that. So I added another weight to the front, and I had this one on the rear. And I put the Pullmore in there, and there's this little suspension they have. Let me see if I can get a light on that. Where basically you have a little cup, a spring, and then a clip, and you push them down on those verticals right there. And I mentioned before, you got to wire these things in series, right? And basically, depending on what side and what brush you start with, that determines which direction the motor turns. So I temporarily put this on there, wired this up here, have a wire going from here to the feed on this one here. So they're both getting feed from each other. And I think what I'll do is put it all together and stick it up on one of the tracks and see if it'll go. That's the plan. And it's funny how much of a pain just a simple little operation like this is, where I had to hacksaw that chunk of steel off the block that was on one of these and had to drill and tap a hole. And I had this metric tap set, but I didn't have drills. So what should have been 5 minutes took me a little bit longer. But in both these Pullmores, they're older ones, and what's unique about them, or what's key, is the bearings for the bottom part of the armature is actually this plastic cap or plate down here, you know, versus that support bearing that the newer ones have. So let's just stick it all together and see if it runs. That one's going to have to sit on the sidelines for a little bit. Let's give this one a shot. Alright, let's start stacking cars on it and see what we can pull with this thing. See if we can get to like 15 cars. This will be 11. Let's see what this does, because oftentimes what the limiter is for me is the hooks. Add a couple more. Yeah, close to 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Might even have 16. Let's see if it'll start it. All right, I'm going to start it right here, and then we're going to try to do the same thing with MPC power. See if it'll do. I'm going to start it right here, and then try to do the same thing with MPC power. And let's see who's got more, Magnetraction with weights or MPC with rubber tires, right? Same game, different set of locomotives. And again, these are old 2-axle Magnetraction Pullmores from the late 50s, the early versions. Yeah, these are 70s era, is my guess, MPC Pullmores, 2 of them. That's it. Well, let's start taking off cars, and what we'll do is we'll play a little game here because the cars have got to get to the end of the line, right? So I'll start taking off cars on this one until it can start, and then I'll hook them on to the obviously stronger set of locomotives and pull them down the track. So let's start with, I'll take these 3. So -3. Let's see if they can get started now. Nope, still spinning. All right, down to 10 cars.